A quick introduction to Gradio. What is Gradio? Gradio is the fastest way to demo your machine learning model with a friendly web interface so that anybody can use it anywhere in the world. So Gradio has this pitch that says build and share delightful machine learning applications with anybody in the world. And what does it mean? It means if you have to demonstrate your machine learning model, you don't have to create a full stack web application. Rather, what you can do is you can wrap your function with Gradio, and then Gradio would be able to create a web interface for you. As you can see on the screen, it says with 5 lines of pure Python code, you should be able to create a UI around your machine learning application. Let's look at the example here. So let's look at this sketch recognition. So you've got handwriting recognition machine learning model or sketch recognition machine learning model, and then you want to create a web application around it for people to use it, for people to experience how good your machine learning model is. It could be either you are creating a demo for somebody else, or it could be that you want to yourself check the validity of your machine learning model, the efficiency of your machine learning model. So for you to do all these things, if you have a web application that you can play around with, that is a great way for you to learn how your model is performing. And typically it's not an easy task for you to do, and Gradio makes it really easy. If you see this code here for sketch recognition, the first step is import the library, then wrap your sketch recognition model, everything within a function, and use that function as a Gradio interface. And the input in your image, you can see that the input image, which is the input for the function, is been given as an input image here, and then output, you're going to label the output, like display the output. So let's go ahead and then try to use this application and then see how it works. So you've got a canvas here, and this canvas has an attached output. So you have an input and you have an output. So let me clear this, and then you can see there is nothing here, right? So I'm going to clear this and then say 3. Okay, this looks like 3. Yeah, you can see that it has gone into the machine learning model, and the machine learning model has tried to figure out what is this, and then it has given you the output score. So this is the easiest way. Let me write something very ambiguous. Okay, so I'm going to write like this. Okay, it's for not very ambiguous. So if I do like this, yeah, so now it doesn't know whether I'm trying to write 9 or 6 or 4, whatever it is, right? So this is how you can actually see, okay, where are the places your machine learning model is not doing good, and then you can probably fix that. And that is one of the advantages of using Gradio, because Gradio lets you do that with a very simple interface. All you have to do is wrap around your machine learning functions, whatever you're doing within a main function here, sketch recognition, and use that function as an input to the Gradio interface. So that is your input, and all you have to do is import the Gradio library. And like that, you can see a couple of other examples that is there on the website, question and answer. So you have got the question. So the idea here is that you can use it for computer vision task, just like this. You can use it for NLP task, like a question and answer generation. You can use it for speech recognition, like you can speech detection and translation, text to speech, speech to text. And also if you want to mark some segmentation within your image, you can still do that. So these are all the examples, and the one thing that common you would see across all these examples is that you import the library, you wrap it around the function, and then you have the Gradio interface, sketch recognition, question and answer, and everything you would see the same thing. It might be that the number of inputs differ, like for example in this case you have got 2 inputs, right? But the fundamentals are same. You do the same thing, and then it just helps you create that interface. Okay, so now we know that Gradio is an application like a Python library that can help you create easy web interfaces for your machine learning model that could be shared with anybody. Let's look at some of the companies that are using Gradio. So if you see the logos that are available here, you can actually see that almost all reputed companies that use machine learning model, you can see like Google is there, Amazon is there, Facebook is there, you can call it Meta, whatever you want, Cisco is there, Hugging Face is there, VMware, Siemens, like all these companies, and also educational institutes like MIT and Stanford, all of them are using Gradio. So this is again for you to gain a confidence that this solution is there to exist. It's not a solution that is just used by a bunch of hobbyists. Gradio is a solution that is being used at corporate level and academic level, and it is a way forward for you to demonstrate your machine learning model if you are not using Gradio. So what are the advantages of using Gradio? So first of all, Gradio is quite easy and fast to set up. All you have to do is install Gradio, and you all know, like if you're in the Python ecosystem, you know that all you have to do is pip install Gradio. And creating a Gradio interface requires only a couple of lines of Python code to your existing project, which means you don't have to change a lot of things in your code, existing code, because that shouldn't, the objective of creating a user interface for your machine learning model shouldn't be a roadblock in your machine learning itself. So that's the whole point of Gradio, right? So it's that you just have a machine learning model and all you wanted to do is create a UI. Now you don't have to deal with, a lot of APIs. You don't have to deal with a lot of new classes and a lot of new libraries. The whole advantage and the point objective of Gradio is that you keep your machine learning code as it is, and all you have to do is add a couple of lines of Python code, like pure Python code, and then that entire script is now turned into a UI, user interface, that anybody can play with. So that's the greatest thing. So fast and easy setup, that's a very good advantage that you have got. The first. The next thing is you can present this as part of a lot of things. For example, you can present this as part of your Jupyter notebook, or Python notebook to be precise, because now you have got a lot of different notebooks, right? Zeppelin notebook, Jupyter notebook, VS Code notebook. So you can present it as notebooks, like embed within notebook, or you can also present it as a separate web page. So you have the liberty, for example, if you're prototyping something on a Google Colab notebook, you can still create a Gradio interface within a Google Colab notebook, and Gradio will give you a URL which you can use to embed this Gradio UI, the web application, within your Google Colab notebook. Which means, let's say you're going to publish a paper, right? So what does papers with code do? So you try to publish your paper with a code, but imagine you can publish your paper not just with code, but also with a web interface where people can play around with your model. Like, now this is going to prevent a lot of things. For example, let us say there is a bias in your model, and then you have no clue about the bias. But before the model becomes mainstream, somebody plays around with that and then come up with the bias, like identify the bias. And you can actually see a lot of people have utilized Gradio to find such biases available in image segmentation model, language models in the past about a particular community. So Gradio has been already used where biases have been identified. The second thing is adversarial attacks. When you have a machine learning model, you want to make sure that the models are not going to be attacked by some silly examples, or it's not prone to adversarial attacks. So for that, you cannot make sure everything, and then the community can always help you. And for that, again, like if you have your model and you believe it's a very good model, you believe it can do something good in the world, it's very important for you to make sure what kind of adversarial attacks this model is prone to. And for somebody to actually even try out that adversarial attack, they need something to play with, right? And Gradio can be that. So Gradio could be embedded within your Colab code, Google Colab notebook, Jupyter notebook, or any sort of Python notebook, and also as a separate web page. So you can just take the link and then share it with anybody. Like, it generates a public link for you, and then you can generate it with anybody. Imagine like you're trying to attend a machine learning interview, and you have been asked to build a model, and then instead of just rather giving just a model and like pickle file, you can actually build an interface and then share it with your potential employer. Or you're going to go to a conference and then you want to show something out of your machine learning, and instead of having the machine learning model on your PowerPoint presentation, you can also have it as a web interface where all the attendees on the conference can play with. So this has enormous potential, and that's the second biggest advantage of Gradio. Like you can present and share Gradio applications within Notebook, outside of Notebook, with anybody in the world. And then the third thing is, if you want to do permanent hosting, like until now we were talking about temporary hosting, you get a like a URL that is like an ngrok URL, and then you can share it with anybody. But if you want permanent hosting, today you have a very good option which is called Hugging Face Spaces. So Hugging Face Spaces is an initiative from Hugging Face, the machine learning company that used to be the NLP company, where you can deploy your Gradio interface for completely free, very easy, very simple. I've got a separate video about that already. I can link that in the YouTube description, but otherwise you can also check it out. At the end of this course, we will learn how to deploy a Gradio UI Gradio app on Hugging Face spaces, like even without even touching your local machine, completely coded on the web and also deployed completely, like seamlessly, and the workflow is really easy. So if you want permanent hosting, again you have a very good option in the form of Hugging Face spaces to host your Gradio application. Now that URL, you could share it with anybody. You can now share it with anybody permanently, not just like a temporary interface. So easy and fast setup. You can present and share the Gradio application with anybody in the form of notebook or web application. And finally, you have the ability to permanently host Gradio applications. These are really good advantages. And like I said before, letting people to play around with your model has a lot of advantages in a corporate world and also in an academia. One is, like I said, like you can eliminate bias, you can eliminate adversarial attacks. Second is like you can actually let people play around with something that you have built, which is the whole point of building something, right? So a lot of advantages of using Gradio. Gradio has very good interface with Hugging Face, Jupyter Notebook, Matplotlib, NumPy, PyTorch, Scikit-learn, and a lot of other machine learning libraries or scientific stack in Python. And you can see already there are a lot of people who love using Gradio, and then they have endorsed Gradio to use Gradio as a solution to do a lot of things. For example, if you see the last example, it very clearly says, honestly, without Gradio, we wouldn't be doing a real-time AI trial. So in clinical trials, for them to try out their algorithm, they have used Gradio. And like with auto NLP, again, somebody has used Gradio, and you can actually see a lot of different use cases of how people have used Gradio and what all the things that people have used Gradio for. So if you are interested in taking your machine learning model and then making a full stack application, this course is for you. So we'll learn more about Gradio in the future section.